Hello and welcome to CVAT Academy, your go-to training hub for mastering data annotation with CVAT. In this video, we'll look into the track mode. We'll learn what annotation tasks this mode is designed for, how it differs from the shape mode, and then explore its main use case, interpolation. In CVAT, object annotation is possible in two modes, shape and track mode. The mode selection is made when activating the tool. For example, when selecting a bounding box, two buttons appear, shape and track. By clicking on one of them, we define the annotation mode that will be applied to the created object. Almost all tools in CVAT offer two annotation modes, shape and track, except for the brush tool, which does not support track mode. Now let's examine the difference between these modes using the simplest tool in CVAT, points. We will create 2 points, one in shape mode and the other in track mode. Visually, they look identical in the workspace, but if we check the side panel of objects, we can notice a difference. First of all, pay attention to the shape names. The first object is labeled points shape, while the second is labeled points track, which immediately indicates in which mode the annotation was performed. Additionally, the object created in track mode has significantly more buttons than the one in shape mode. We will analyze their meanings later. Let's move to the next frame. Here, only one object remains, the one annotated in track mode, while the object created in shape mode has disappeared. If we continue switching frames, we can see that the point annotated in track mode stays in place and will remain there until the end of the task. Let's go to the last frame to confirm this. Returning to the start of the task, we can achieve a similar effect with the object annotated in shape mode using propagation. Recall that propagation copies the object to a specified number of frames. Click on the 3 dots of the object and select Propagate. In the opened window, leave all values at default and click Yes. Let's check the result. Visually, it looks the same, but there is still a significant difference. Each annotated object is assigned an ID, a unique object number, which can be seen here. Notice, when switching frames, the object annotated in shape mode has a different ID each time, whereas the object in track mode keeps the same ID. The main difference between these modes is that in shape mode, the object is created on only one frame. Even if we propagate it, that is, copy it to subsequent frames, these will be separate objects with different IDs, unrelated to each other. At the same time, the object annotated in track mode retains the same ID throughout the task. This means the object remains a single instance across all frames, changing its position or state on different frames. Now let's look at the main function of track mode, interpolation. Interpolation is a method that helps automatically fill in the gaps between 2 points to create a smooth transition. In the context of annotation, interpolation is used to automatically place an object on frames between the ones where it has already been marked. In the current example, since the point was placed only on the first frame, interpolation automatically fills all the other frames with this same point without changing its position, as no new location was specified on other frames. Now let's move the point to a different position on the last frame and check the changes. Now, as we switch frames, the point moves from its position on the first frame to the new position on the last. This is how interpolation works. When we add annotations on 2 frames, interpolation automatically places the object between them, filling in all intermediate frames. The object's position can be changed on any necessary frame. Let's move to the middle of the task and adjust the point's position. Now, interpolation will work in 2 segments, from the first frame to the current one, and from the current one to the last. Here's how it looks. Notice this star in the object properties. It indicates whether changes have been made to the current frame. If the star is filled, it means changes have been made. If not, no changes were made. Frames where changes have been made are called keyframes. To quickly navigate between them, you can use the arrows on the object. These 2 arrows allow you to move to the very first or last keyframe. These 2 allow you to jump to the next or previous keyframe. You can also switch between keyframes using hotkeys. E moves to the previous keyframe. R moves to the next keyframe. Let's delete the annotation and annotate the blue ball using track mode. We will place a point in its center on the first frame and track its movement. Switching through the frames, we will find the moment when the ball starts moving. On this frame, the movement begins. We could immediately move the point to the center of the ball, but we shouldn't. Let's understand why. If we move the point and go back to the beginning, we will see that it starts moving even though the ball itself stays in place. This happened because the ball was stationary for some time before it started moving. but we only set 2 keyframes for both states. To ensure correct annotation, we need to first fix the period when the ball is stationary by adding an intermediate keyframe. Let's delete this keyframe. To do so, click on the star or press K. A keyframe saves the object's state, and when it is deleted, the object either takes an intermediate position, if there is another keyframe, or returns to the last saved position. After deleting the keyframe, we see that the point has returned to its original position. Now, let's find the frame where the ball starts moving again. Here it is. Since the ball was stationary on the previous frame, its position needs to be fixed. To do this, go back to the previous frame and add a keyframe by clicking the star or pressing K. Now, this will be the starting point for further interpolation. Moving forward, let's go a few frames ahead and move the point to the center of the ball to fix its new position and create another keyframe. Now, let's return to the beginning and check the result. We see that the point always remains at the center of the ball. Continuing with the ball's annotation, let's see what happens next. At this point, the ball's center moves beyond the frame boundaries, meaning annotation is no longer needed. Move one frame back, where the center is still visible, and place the point at the center. Let's check the result from the previous keyframe. Switching forward, we see that the ball is completely out of the frame, but the annotated point remains. Since we no longer need to annotate this object, we remove the point using the outside property. To activate it, click this icon. This should be done on the frame where the object is no longer required. Once outside is activated, the point disappears. Thus, up to this frame, the object remains annotated, but after that, it is hidden. The track will also no longer appear in the object list on these frames. To bring back all tracks in the task and continue working with them if needed, open the settings, press F2, and enable Show All Interpolation Tracks. Now the track is visible again, and we can interact with it. Switching forward a few frames, the blue ball has reappeared in the frame, and we can continue its annotation. To do this, we disable the outside property, and the point returns. We continue annotating the ball until the end of the video. Up to this point, it moves fairly linearly, then slows down and stops. We move the point at the moment where the slowdown begins and on the last frame where the ball has already stopped. We check the result. In the intermediate frames, the point has slightly deviated. We correct its position and check again. Now everything looks correct. Tracks have additional functions that can be useful in the workflow. For example, if at the moment this object appeared, we needed to create a new track instead of continuing the existing one. Since the object has already been annotated as a single track until the end of the video, we can split it. We find the frame where the ball appears. Then, on the toolbar, we select the Split a Track tool, or press the Alt+M shortcut on the keyboard, and click on the point with the left mouse button. In the object side panel, 2 tracks are now displayed. The first one ends at the selected frame, with the outside property activated, and the second one begins from it. Similarly, if we go back to the beginning of the video, check the track ID, and follow it, we will see that when the ball disappears and reappears, it already has a different ID, meaning these are 2 different objects, and these tracks are no longer linked. If necessary, multiple tracks can be merged into one. To do this, activate the Merge Shapes Tracks tool, or press the M key on the keyboard. Then, anywhere on the timeline, select the first track, find the second track, and click on it. After that, press M again to complete the merging of the tracks. If we check the object ID, we will notice that at the beginning and the end, the object has the same ID. With the Merge Shapes tool, shapes can be converted into tracks. To do this, we annotate 3 points for the ball in shape mode, on the frame where it starts moving, on an intermediate frame, and on the frame where the ball begins to cross the frame boundary. Then we activate the Merge Shapes tool, select all these points, and press M again to complete the merging. The points are converted into a single continuous track, and the frames where the points were annotated become keyframes for this track. Note that immediately after the frame where the point was set, the outside property is activated for the track. To interpolate the point correctly, we need to delete the keyframes at these positions. We have reviewed the basic principles of working with track mode, using a point as an example. Now let's see how other shapes are annotated in this mode. The interpolation principle remains the same, but the number of interpolated points depends on the shape of the object. For example, when interpolating a bounding box, two key points are considered, the top left and bottom right, as they define the size and position of the box in the image. Similarly, polygons and polylines can be interpolated, but in their case, each point is interpolated separately. Let's examine interpolation using a polygon as an example. There are two ways to interpolate a polygon: moving and adjusting the points. However, if the object does not change shape and size, it is sufficient to simply move the polygon. Complete redrawing. If the object changes shape or size, it is better to redraw the polygon. To do this, press Shift plus N, then redraw the polygon and complete the annotation by pressing N. When interpolating a polygon, it is important to consider the position of the starting point, marked in white. If its position changes too much relative to the previous keyframe, the interpolation will be incorrect. Let's change it and check the result. The annotation in the intermediate frames looks incorrect. We return the starting point to a position as close as possible to its location in the previous keyframe and check again. Now the interpolation is correct. A similar effect occurs if the polygon's direction is changed. Let's change it and check the result. The interpolation has become incorrect. We restore the original direction and check again. Now everything is correct. The interpolation of cuboids and ellipses works the same way as for bounding boxes, so we will skip them. In this video, we will also briefly cover changing attribute values. Some attribute values can change over the course of the video, for example, when the object's state changes. In this case, the ball may be stationary or moving. Let's add such an attribute for this label on the task page. We name this attribute state and add two values, static and moving. To allow the attribute value to change, we enable the mutable property. Now we click Done and return to the task. Let's set the attribute values for the ball annotated with a point. Since other annotated objects may be present in the task, we enable a filter and set the condition based on the ID of this object, which in this case is 1. We switch to attribute annotation mode for more convenient attribute annotation. At the start, the ball is stationary, and by default, the attribute value is set to static. So we look at the following frames to find the one where the ball starts moving. Here it is. On this frame, where the ball starts moving, we need to change the attribute value to moving. Now we continue watching the video and wait for the ball to stop. Here, the ball has moved out of the frame, and we remember that it will return later. We find this moment. Here it is. The ball has returned. Now we look for the frame where it stops. Here the ball stops, so we change the attribute value to static. We check how the attribute values change throughout the video. Here's the moment when the value changes from static to moving. And at the end, the value changes from moving to static. We have covered the basic principles of working with track mode, including point interpolation, bounding boxes, polygons, polylines, and other shapes. We learned how to work with keyframes, correct interpolation, use the outside, split, and merge properties, and convert shapes to tracks. We also reviewed how mutable attributes work. Using track mode significantly simplifies annotation tasks involving moving objects, reduces manual work, and improves annotation accuracy. Now you can apply this knowledge in practice to speed up the annotation process and achieve the best results.